Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Florida Business Forum, Florida's #1 business forum podcast. Here's your information guru and anchorman, Sam Yates.
Wow!
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting edition of the Florida Business Forum podcast. Now, I have to tell you right from the get-go, we are #1 for 2 years in a row here in Florida as the state's #1 business forum podcast. So, when you have a reputation like that, you have to also have a reputation for having great guests. And I am so happy today that we have some special guests with us. Trevor O'Leary and Charlie Nitschelm, the co-founders. Charlie, did I get your name right there?
Yeah, you did. Nitschelm.
Nitschelm. Okay. That's always important. I had a general tell me that once, and he had stars out to here. Never again. I got his name right the first time, and after that. But now, the question. A lot of people may have heard about tiny homes, but you two have something a little more exotic, and that could be a good word, I think, for it. But it's called microhomes. And I know that everybody's going, what the hell is a microhome? And we're going to answer that question, folks. Trust me, we are. But as tradition, we're going to start by getting to know our guests. So, gentlemen, please tell our audience about you and what your background is. Bring us up to speed to the microhome point.
Yeah, sure. I'll start. So this is Charlie Nitschelm. I'm 28 years old. I worked at SpaceX for 5 years. I'm a mechanical engineer by training. So I went to the University of New Hampshire, graduated in 2020, right when COVID hit. Moved to LA, joined the Starlink program. If anyone knows, or if it has used Starlink, I worked on the hardware that gets shipped to the customer. So I led the Hawthorne office for the Starlink Mini, which is a specific mobile product that we made. And then, over my tenure, I chose to leave after 5 years. Went to school at MIT. That's how Trevor and I met. I accepted student stay. He then went to Harvard. I went to MIT. And over that year, we kind of started Uplift Microhome. And just this past week, we quit school and we are now in it full time. So that's my quick intro, Trevor.
Yeah, my name is Trevor O'Leary. Similarly, I'm also an engineer, though I'm an electrical engineer. I went to school at McGill University in Canada, after which I worked at Tesla for several years through internships and full-time working on electronics development and test automation at our factories. After a few years, left as well, went to school for business and engineering, met Charlie, and over the past few months, we've been developing the Uplift Microhome, and now we're taking it on full-time.
Now, I'm going to ask the question, O'Leary. Now, wait a minute. That's got a little familiar ring to it. Is there anything else we need to know there?
Irish, that's for sure.
I'll leave it at that then. And my friends are going to say, Sam, what is it with you, getting the engineers on all the time? But for our podcast that is to the Florida Engineering Society, they're going to be going, attaboy, you learned well here. You brought the engineers in. So what does the MIT program, I think you won an award for the house, the micro house. Tell us about that award, and that'll segue right into what is a micro home.
Yeah. So we were in the MIT 100K competition, which is probably what you saw.
Yes.
And essentially, a bunch of startups apply to this competition. I think around 85 did this year's MIT 100K, and we won first place. So that actually was a couple weeks ago. For Uplift Microhome and the business, we then carried that energy. We went to a conference, that's how we met Sam here, at the Governor's Hurricane Conference in Palm Beach, Florida, and we showcased the product there, which was great. We had a very busy booth through the 2 days. We then took that energy and went to New York City, starting to seek seed funding as well, which is very exciting.
Now, as I described for our audience, we did meet at the Governor's Hurricane Conference just recently in Palm Beach. And as those of you who will see, in addition to hearing our episode today, when you look at these gentlemen sitting here, they're in the microhome. They are sitting there, and Now, you would think that 60, I didn't stumble, 60 square feet would be something that resembles a sardine can on the inside. But look behind you, I have to say, I was impressed. There are windows, there's LED lighting, air conditioning, you have power, you are solar powered, you have a satellite uplink, and you are in a self-contained 60 square foot home. And I want to underscore that home. When I looked at your building from the outside, first off, I was impressed. I have a former executive for a builders association, and we had seen homes, tiny homes that looked like they were something you would pick up at Lowe's or Home Depot and spiff it up a little bit and call it a micro home. This isn't. This is really class construction and built to last. So one of the things that a lot of folks are going to ask is, how much does it cost? And I've started answering questions already today. I say affordable. What's your description?
Yeah, we're targeting a price tag of 35,000. Though we're going to be ramping up various types of prototypes, and we're going to be talking to customers to look what types of features they need. And so, while this is our target, we unfortunately can't promise a price at this time. But what we recognize, which is super important for our customers to understand, is when you deliver this product, there's nothing else that you need to install. So a lot of people are comparing it to very inexpensive flat pack homes that come up and they create a box in your backyard. Now you need to furnish it. You need to install power and water utilities underground, which takes lots of time and is oftentimes most of the cost. And so while we really want to make sure that this is as low cost as possible, I think what really makes it stand out is just that it's ready when it delivers.
How does the name Uplift figure in to your concept? There's got to be a little bit of a story there.
Yeah. This company was first started to try to solve homelessness in a general sense. And really, actually, I mean, the mission's still there. It's not like we have lost track of homelessness. That's actually the guiding star. But uplift was a word picked because the goal of this company is to uplift those in the worst case scenarios in America. That is our mission. And the Uplift Microhome is just that first product that we think can essentially be utilized, not just for our company to sell to our first customers, but then those customers to then help the people in need, whether it be an operational team for disaster relief, operational camps, whether it be cities and states trying to help their homelessness populations, whether it be extreme poverty or that barista that has to commute 2 hours to get to her job. Maybe she can live affordably now in that urban environment she calls home. So that's why the company's called Uplift, and Microhome's just that first product that will hopefully get us there.
I think that's very inspiring, and those that are aware of what's going on in the housing industry in particular, this is something that could change the entire landscape because affordability is something that has gone out the window. A lot of people are like, I'm stuck where I'm at right now because there's nothing affordable out there. And you have the answer, as you said, totally self-contained. Could you envision, or perhaps you already have, micro home villages?
Yeah, there'll be a bunch of use cases. Definitely micro home villages. I mean, just to paint the picture for the people listening and maybe watching, this thing is quite simple. I mean, really what we're trying to make is the car for homes, although it doesn't have wheels. So essentially the main way it gets moved is via forklift. The whole thing, fully assembled, gets picked up with a standard 5,000 pound forklift. And as soon as it touches the ground, the unit automatically self-levels. You walk in, you turn the lights on, you can hot shower, you can go to the bathroom, go to sleep in 68-degree air-conditioned space. It's like an instant Airbnb in a sense. That's the quality we're trying to get. And currently, like specifically for the disaster relief market, which if you watch any of our pitches online, we're really talking about disaster relief. You don't get that. They take 4 months to essentially make these camps that are single-use trailers in a dirt lot hundreds of miles away. This really not only does it concatenate all of the work that typically is done to make these kinds of villages that are quite not useful once they get there 4 months after, you essentially can be very close to the person's property, maybe even on their property, as they begin the rebuilding process. Because disasters are not 2-week problems, months and years. So we kind of envision the Uplift Microhome being that key asset for people with honestly just general housing insecurity. Which disasters is obviously that one time where it's like, wow, you didn't even know it was coming, and now you have nothing.
Yeah. And I want to underscore for everyone too that for disaster recovery, not just the housing for those who are displaced, but also housing for the workers and the relief people who are coming there to take care of those in a disaster. It's a monumental chore for many, many people. And so, I want to commend both of you for, having that thought on disaster relief. And of course, that was the reason we were at the hurricane conference, to give everyone a good idea of what you do. And what was the response there from people who were, every time I went by, I was trying to time it so that there weren't, as many people there, but I was like, after the second time down the aisle, I was like, damn it, there's going to be people there, Sam, just go on up. And I talked to the engineers, some of your other folks, and got the tour. And I don't want to give everybody just my impression. What was your impression of a response?
People were really surprised by how it felt to walk in. And that was really actually our objective when we built this prototype, is we wanted to make sure that people didn't just look at the 60 square feet and go, it's too small. We wanted people to walk in and realize that it's a very dignified place to live and say, wow, when they walked in. And that's what we got all day, both days at the conference. And so we're really excited about that. I think it's the right step that we need to take as we go on and build more of these prototypes.
Now, when you just said, as we go on and build more of these prototypes, I understand you are going to be looking perhaps a manufacturing facility in Florida?
Yeah, so there's multiple spots. Currently, we're leaning, maybe we can get convinced for Florida, but we're leaning to go to Texas. It's a good center for disasters where you can easily ship to both California and Florida, obviously the hubs for disaster. So right now, we're currently leaning towards Austin. Just because of the hardware talent that we need as a startup to make this a beautiful product. But our vision here is having several factories. Just like when a car company, gets started, they have to have one hub. We will definitely have many places we're going to want to build, especially if, say, Florida or the state wants to encourage us to get to their area to produce jobs and maybe produce the product for them directly. There's going to be needs for multiple locations for assembly. But first step for us for the next year-ish, once we close on our seed round, is to really, this was our first prototype, the one we're sitting in. This isn't something we want to send to a customer to try out yet. It's just for us and to show. But the next goal for the next year will be to iterate and really get to a unit, 20 to 30 of them that we want to build, that we can send out to our first key customers. Maybe that's the state of Florida, if they're listening to this, if they want to actually try this out for disaster relief. And make the product just an absolutely wonderful piece of asset for people, which we'll be able to do over a year and a bigger team.
And I have to say, for transparency, I'm going to plug you into some contacts with a company that I happen to be involved with. It's called Results, and the E is a 3, disaster response, very similar to FEMA, but the 3 stands for respond, recover, and rebuild. So I've already talked to some of the principals. They're wanting to talk to you, and if we can in some way give you a boost with it, we'll have those conversations. But I know there are other people that are going to want to reach out and get in touch with you. Good point right now to let everybody know how to do that.
Just go to our website, upliftmicrohome.com. If you fill out a contact form, or if you're interested in saying you're interested in buying units, there's a form for that too. It goes right to our email. We'll see it in 10 seconds.
You can even just Google Uplift Microhome. We even now see the AI actually also returning results. So Uplift Microhome and you'll find us.
Very good. From your vantage point, as you started it with that vision tied into Uplift, have you made any key discoveries along the way that were true aha moments that changed or gave a little bit of a different direction? And I'm asking that in particular for our engineers in the audience.
I mean, first one comes to mind is maybe early history, which was, thinking about this product, like because obviously this is what we're building here is a new type of housing. It's not like we're just going to make something that's existed before and try to make it more efficiently or save on cost by switching out materials. That's not what we're doing here. What someone has not made something that can be forklifted, fully assembled, and it's fully off grid. Like that combination of two things has not been made before, at least by a company that wants to scale to the US size. And I think that's important to note because when those two things are combined, our prediction, and this is obviously where all the risk of the company is because this is a new product, our prediction is those two things being combined together will transform the cost of housing for those people that want temporary and transitional use, which is a huge market. And a lot of people are in need. So honestly, the biggest aha moment was being able to get to that statement, which took a while. I took an MIT course that was all about thinking about the problem correctly, and we had the freedom to pick our own problem. And through that time, that's where I got to disaster relief. At first, the problem for the course was homelessness, and I started to see that a startup with very little funding, at the beginning, will not be able to tackle kind of the trifecta of problems that homelessness suffers from in all the major urban and county cities. I think the biggest aha moment of the early days, maybe Trevor has a good one for like long term when we started to make up the prototype, but was that combination of tech that is all going in the right direction for us to be able to make it fully deployable as a forklift, but still fully off grid. And that combo of, because batteries are getting way less and are denser, the solar panels are cheaper and more efficient. Like the tech is in the direction to do this, and it's finally closing in terms of like the envelope to be able to make it work.
Trevor, any addition to that?
For me, I think the aha moments was just talking to survivors directly and asking them like, what was your experience? What did you go through? Mm-hmm. And how does this fit into the recovery and the response? And Charlie and I had different journeys when we converged together on this. And mine was just listening to how painful it was and how much this would have helped disasters. And at that point, I was like, I need to be a part of this.
And I have to say, from what I have seen and hear, and what I hear from people, they're having the people that I'm talking to and the people that are finally getting the word of what you are doing. That's their aha moment when they go, aha! Now there is something that we can look at, we can explore, and perhaps get involved in. So, and I guess that's the other thing. If anyone in our audience wants to become involved, how could they get involved, or is there a possibility of that for them to be involved in some way in this new movement?
I mean, same answer. Come meet us over the website. It has our info there to contact us. We're going to be, personally, we're going to be heads down trying to make the prototype. But also at the same time, we're trying to find those first few customers that we really want to design to and get the product right so that we can expand to essentially every state and citizen. So yeah, we would love to chat with anyone who might have a use case and talk about possibly getting you one of our first prototypes.
Amazing. I know that that the wheels are turning for a lot of people out there right now. From our interview so far, we've covered a lot of ground, and I'm trying to cover as much as possible. Is there anything that we have not touched upon that you want to make sure that we get out before I begin the wrap-up process?
I think it's important to think about the long term, what we're trying to do here with this product. And it gets a little far out. This is where my craziness maybe starts to get exposed in terms of trying to really help a lot of Americans. But really the point of this company, right, to go back is Uplift. There's a lot of people hurting in America, not just the middle class, not being able to afford being in the city, but there are a large portion, talking, 15% obviously live in poverty. And if you remember, the poverty line in America right now is $13,000 a year for an individual, and $33,000 as a family of four. And if you guys are listening and those numbers, I mean, Trevor and I always look at each other, we're like shocked. It's just an unimaginable cost to live, to be able to live with that number. And then when we look at, cost of living, obviously housing is the number one item. And essentially what we're making here with this microhome is we're changing the cost per day. If you try to aggregate, why does housing cost so much and what's the reason, blah, blah, blah. We're changing it by an order of magnitude. It is 10 times less expensive to live in this than almost any other product on the market today. And then it's good to zoom out, when do orders of magnitude change in an industry, what happens? Usually what happens is you only can explain it by living in it. You have to see what actually happens. So what gets, I think, both Trevor and I so excited is we're about to create an order of magnitude change. Space is having it now, right? Yeah. Electric vehicles in terms of quantity and the amount of demand is orders of magnitude change. So we've seen these shifts. I think space is maybe the best one because we're going to start getting people on the moon for $1,000 ticket. It's going to be crazy. We're going to do that for housing. That's Uplift's goal. And essentially the outcome is everyone has a dignified place to live. That's what's going to happen. Assuming that the same dollar amount goes to the programs that essentially are a social safety net. So Uplift wants to be there to provide a better social safety net for America. And we'll drive it through the Uplift Microhome. That's the product.
When you came forward and became available, I promised right at the start of the program that I wasn't going to ask any tough questions, but I have one final question, and it is the toughest question. And I save that tough question for everyone. You ready for that tough question?
Yes, sir.
Hit us.
Will you be able to come back and be on this program again at least once to give us an update and share your success?
Absolutely.
Of course. You have to let us know how people respond to the messaging here. I'm curious to hear thoughts. And then, yeah, most definitely.
Putting on my marketing hat, 3-day, 72-hour camp for media. Bring them in, let them stay 3 days and write about their experience or tell their experience. Low cost, high performance output. Just remember where you heard it from. But gentlemen, I want to thank you personally for being on the program. I truly, based on everything that I've experienced and everything that I've seen in the housing and other industries, think this micro home is a major success. Thank you for being on the program today.
Thank you, Sam.
Thanks, Sam.
And I am Sam Yates, your guru for information in the business world and anchorman too along the way. Until our next episode of the Florida Business Forum, have a great day, everybody. You've been listening to Florida's #1 Business Forum podcast. Thanks for listening. Until our next episode, stay tuned for more business.